Imagine just for a moment that you could speak to God, not in a whisper, not in a fleeting thought, but in clear, deliberate words that echo from your heart. What would you say? 4 simple words, no more, no less. And yet in these 4 words you have the power to express the deepest longing of your soul, the most profound questions of your mind, and the raw honesty of your heart. Life often teaches us that words are fragile. They stumble, they fail, they sometimes betray our true feelings. But what if, in this moment before God, your words are received not as fragile, but as pure, unshielded truth? What 4 words would encapsulate everything you feel, everything you seek, and everything you hope for? These 4 words are not just a question, a prayer, or a demand. They are a reflection of your journey, a mirror to your conscience, and a compass guiding your life. Today we will explore 5 perspectives on this extraordinary question, perspectives that will help you understand yourself, your faith, and the very nature of your relationship with God. By the end, you may realize that the 4 words you would speak are not just words. They are a roadmap for your life, a key to your purpose, and a beacon of hope for your soul. Gratitude is more than a polite response or a fleeting feeling. It is the very lens through which we perceive life and all its nuances. To speak to God with words of gratitude is to recognize, first and foremost, that every breath we take, every moment we live, is a gift that has not been earned but graciously given. In the rush of daily life, it is easy to overlook the quiet miracles that surround us, the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the laughter of a child, the simple pleasure of food that nourishes us. Gratitude requires that we pause and acknowledge these gifts, not as trivialities, but as manifestations of divine care and attention. When we center our hearts on gratitude, we begin to see life itself as a sacred tapestry, woven with intention and purpose, even in moments that seem chaotic or painful. True gratitude is transformative because it changes how we relate to the world. It shifts the focus from what is lacking to what is present, from complaint to recognition, from despair to hope. When we approach God with gratitude, we are engaging in an act of humility, acknowledging that our existence is sustained by a force far greater than ourselves. Gratitude is not conditional upon circumstances. It is not merely a reaction to success or pleasure, but a steady practice that honors life in its entirety. It is in expressing gratitude that we cultivate contentment and peace, understanding that even challenges carry lessons and opportunities for growth. In this way, our words of thanks are not empty. They are a mirror reflecting our awareness of life's depth and our willingness to embrace it fully. Gratitude is a bridge that connects our inner life to our outward actions. When we recognize the gifts we have received, we are naturally compelled to act with generosity, kindness, and compassion. A heart filled with gratitude does not hoard blessings, it shares them. By speaking words of thanks to God, we reinforce a mindset that celebrates abundance rather than scarcity, cooperation rather than conflict, and love rather than resentment. These words, simple though they may be, carry profound power. They shape our thoughts, our choices, and ultimately the trajectory of our lives. Gratitude becomes a compass, guiding us toward behaviors that honor the source of all life and affirm our place within it. Gratitude fosters resilience. Life is not without suffering, disappointment, or loss. Yet a heart trained in gratitude can find rays of light even in the darkest valleys. By intentionally expressing thanks for what we do have, we develop a perspective that is neither naive nor blind to pain, but fortified by hope and trust. Speaking gratitude to God is an acknowledgement that we are not alone in our struggles, that every difficulty may contain hidden lessons, and that every act of endurance is witnessed and valued. This realization is profoundly liberating. It empowers us to face challenges with courage and grace, knowing that our lives are not random, but part of a larger, meaningful pattern. Gratitude also deepens our understanding of our own nature and purpose. To articulate thanks is to reflect upon the ways we have been shaped, guided, and protected. It allows us to recognize the interconnectedness of our experiences, the ways in which relationships, opportunities, and even setbacks contribute to the unfolding of our character. Words of gratitude spoken to God are more than acknowledgement. They are insight. They reveal an awareness that life is not simply a series of events, but a continuum in which every moment holds significance. In practicing gratitude, we cultivate wisdom, learning to discern value beyond surface appearances and fleeting emotions. Gratitude has the power to transform our perception of God Himself. When we offer thanks, we are not merely listing favors received, we are engaging in a dialogue of trust, recognition, and reverence. Gratitude allows us to approach God with sincerity, not as a supplicant demanding favors, but as a mindful participant in a relationship that is reciprocal, dynamic, and deeply personal. The words we choose, thank you, or any expression of heartfelt acknowledgement, carry the weight of our awareness and our willingness to see the sacred in everyday life. In this way, gratitude is both a reflection of our understanding and a teacher, guiding us toward humility, joy, and the profound realization that every aspect of our existence is an opportunity to respond to life with appreciation. Seeking understanding is one of the most profound ways in which the human mind and heart engage with the divine. To approach God with a request for clarity and wisdom is to admit that life is complex, that our vision is limited, and that our knowledge is incomplete. It is an acknowledgement that while we may have experiences, opinions, and reasoning, there are depths of truth and dimensions of reality that lie beyond our grasp. When we speak words of inquiry to God, we are not expressing weakness, but rather a courageous desire to confront uncertainty with honesty. Understanding is not simply accumulation of facts, it is the illumination of the heart, the refinement of perception, and the harmonizing of our inner life with the greater truths of existence. The pursuit of understanding begins with humility. Humility is the recognition that no matter how much we know, there is always more to comprehend, and that our perspective is inherently partial. It is the willingness to listen, to reflect, and to admit when we are mistaken or unaware. In seeking understanding from God, we are opening ourselves to guidance that surpasses human logic and invites us into a realm of insight that transforms our approach to life. This pursuit requires patience, for understanding rarely arrives instantaneously. It comes in moments of reflection, in the careful consideration of experience, in the subtle lessons hidden in failure or disappointment. To ask God for understanding is to invite light into the corners of confusion, to allow clarity to emerge where once there was doubt. Seeking understanding is an act of courage because it demands that we confront the questions we often avoid. We may wish to understand the purpose of suffering, the reasons behind injustice, or the meaning of our own personal struggles. These questions are not easy, and yet they define the human condition. By speaking to God in search of understanding, we cultivate the strength to face uncertainty without despair. We accept that some answers may arrive in unexpected forms, through experiences rather than explanations, through relationships rather than solitary contemplation. In this sense, seeking understanding is not a passive activity, it is an active engagement with life, requiring introspection, openness, and a willingness to evolve. Understanding also shapes the way we relate to others. When we ask God to grant insight, we are often seeking more than knowledge for ourselves. We are seeking wisdom to navigate our interactions, our responsibilities, and our moral decisions. To understand is to empathize, to discern motives, to perceive consequences beyond immediate appearances. Words of inquiry spoken to God are therefore not only personal, they are relational. They empower us to act with greater justice, compassion, and integrity in our communities and in our personal lives. Understanding bridges the gap between intention and action, between knowledge and behavior, and allows us to live with a coherence that reflects both intellect and heart. The quest for understanding is intimately tied to the recognition of mystery. There are dimensions of existence that remain beyond human comprehension, and to seek understanding is not to demand the eradication of mystery, but to embrace it with reverence. Mystery is not a threat, it is an invitation. It teaches patience, invites wonder, and encourages the cultivation of wisdom rather than mere certainty. By speaking to God in the pursuit of understanding, we acknowledge that life is layered. That meaning often unfolds gradually, and that the deepest truths are revealed not only through words, but through the lived experience of moral and spiritual growth. Seeking understanding is also a safeguard against arrogance and presumption. When we believe we already fully grasp the workings of life, we close ourselves off to learning, to correction, and to growth. Words of inquiry spoken to God remind us of our limitations and invite us into a dialogue that transcends the superficialities of ego. This dialogue shapes character, molds patience, and fosters discernment. It is in the practice of continually seeking understanding that we refine our judgment, strengthen our moral compass, and cultivate the wisdom necessary to navigate the challenges of existence with both clarity and humility. Seeking understanding transforms our relationship with God. It turns prayer into an active conversation rather than a mere ritual. It transforms faith from passive acceptance into engaged exploration. To ask for insight, clarity, or wisdom is to participate in a dynamic exchange in which the mind and the spirit are sharpened, the heart is illuminated, and the soul becomes more attuned to the greater rhythms of life. Understanding is not only a gift we receive, it is a practice we cultivate, a discipline that shapes our character, and a principle that guides our decisions and our growth. In this pursuit, every question we dare to ask, every moment of reflection, and every effort to discern meaning becomes a testament to our desire not only to live, but to live with purpose, awareness, and integrity. Requesting guidance is one of the most profound expressions of our awareness of human limitation and the recognition that life's path is rarely clear or straightforward. To speak to God with a plea for direction is to acknowledge that our own understanding is often incomplete, and that the choices we make, however carefully considered, may lead to outcomes we cannot foresee. Guidance is not a call for control over circumstances, but a humble admission that wisdom beyond ourselves exists, and that we are willing to align our lives with it. When we ask for guidance, we are essentially saying that we desire not just any path, but the path that fulfills our purpose, develops our character, and contributes to the good of the world around us. The act of requesting guidance requires humility, for it is in humility that we recognize our inability to navigate life's complexities solely through our own reasoning. It is easy to assume that our plans, desires, or understanding of the world are sufficient to steer us correctly, yet life consistently demonstrates that outcomes often defy our expectations. By seeking divine guidance, we acknowledge that our perspective is limited and that the wisdom necessary to make truly life-affirming decisions may reside beyond our own mind. This admission is not weakness. It is the recognition of reality. It is an embrace of dependence not as a flaw, but as a source of strength, a willingness to invite clarity into the uncertainty that surrounds our choices. Requesting guidance also entails trust. When we speak to God, asking for direction, we are placing our faith in the notion that there is a plan or order that, while often hidden from our view, is ultimately coherent and good. Trust is difficult because it requires patience, the ability to wait for signs, opportunities, or understanding to emerge. It demands that we resist the urge to force outcomes according to our limited vision, and instead cultivate attentiveness to subtle indications of the right course, whether they appear through intuition, circumstances, counsel, or inner conviction. In this sense, guidance is not simply a set of instructions given to us, it is a dynamic relationship that requires listening, discernment, and responsiveness. Seeking guidance transforms the way we make decisions. It shifts our approach from impulsive or purely self-serving choices to considered, reflective actions that weigh both personal and communal implications. To ask God for guidance is to invite principles that are larger than the self into our decision-making process. It is an effort to align our personal desires with universal values of justice, integrity, compassion, and purpose. Guidance is not about avoiding difficulty or challenge. It is about navigating them with wisdom so that our struggles contribute to growth rather than regret. This approach allows us to act with confidence, knowing that our intentions are aligned with a vision that transcends immediate gain or convenience. Requesting guidance also requires courage, for to follow direction that is not entirely our own can feel uncertain or even risky. Life is full of temptations to follow familiar paths, to act according to habit, or to succumb to fear. Yet the courage to ask for guidance and then to act on it demonstrates a willingness to embrace uncertainty in pursuit of truth and purpose. It is a courage that does not rely on the absence of risk, but on the faith that there is wisdom greater than our fear, and that alignment with this wisdom will ultimately lead to fulfillment, even when the immediate results are unclear. The act of seeking guidance fosters reflection and self-awareness. It encourages us to examine our motives, priorities, and values, for guidance is most meaningful when it is integrated with conscious intention. By questioning our assumptions and testing our impulses against higher principles, we develop discernment, a capacity to differentiate between fleeting desires and enduring truths. In this way, guidance is both external and internal. We seek direction from God, but in doing so, we are compelled to cultivate insight within ourselves. Our ability to recognize, interpret, and act upon guidance is shaped by the clarity of our own understanding, the openness of our heart, and the integrity of our character. Requesting guidance deepens our relationship with God. It transforms our faith from passive belief into active engagement, from abstract devotion into practical participation in life's unfolding narrative. Guidance is a dialogue, a partnership in which we offer our questions, doubts, and intentions, and we remain attentive to the answers that come in the form of insight, opportunity, or conviction. In asking for guidance, we do not relinquish responsibility. Rather, we embrace it more fully, understanding that our choices carry weight and that our actions are most powerful when aligned with wisdom that transcends our personal limitations. The words spoken in pursuit of guidance are therefore not only a request, they are a commitment to live deliberately, thoughtfully, and purposefully, guided by a vision that seeks the highest good for ourselves and for the world around us. Expression of love is the most profound way in which human beings can communicate with the divine, for love is both the language of the heart and the essence of existence itself. To speak to God with words of love is to acknowledge the source of life, the origin of beauty, and the wellspring of all that is good. Love, when directed toward God, is not merely a sentiment or fleeting emotion. It is a deliberate act of recognition, a conscious choice to honor and revere that which transcends our comprehension. In expressing love, we bridge the finite and the infinite, the temporal and the eternal, creating a channel through which our souls connect with the boundless presence that sustains us. The act of expressing love to God requires sincerity and authenticity. It demands that we strip away pretense, that we speak from the depths of our being rather than from the surface of politeness or obligation. Words of love are not simply uttered. They are lived, embodied in the choices we make, the gratitude we feel, and the care we extend to others. By articulating love toward God, we cultivate an inner awareness that life itself is a gift, and that our existence is inseparable from the greater context of creation. Love becomes a lens through which we interpret our experiences, allowing us to perceive even challenges and hardships as opportunities to deepen our understanding of goodness, compassion, and the interconnectedness of all things. Expressing love to God cultivates humility. Love is not self-serving. It does not demand recognition or reward. To express love is to place something beyond oneself at the center of one's attention, to acknowledge a power, a wisdom, and a presence that is infinitely greater than our own. This humility is liberating, for it allows us to release the illusion of control, to accept that life unfolds according to principles that may surpass our immediate understanding. In love, we find the courage to surrender not to weakness, but to trust, a trust that aligns our desires, our actions, and our thoughts with a higher purpose. The words we choose, simple or profound, act as vessels through which this trust is communicated, reinforcing our commitment to live in harmony with what is right, true, and eternal. Love also transforms the way we perceive ourselves and others. When we articulate love toward God, we are reminded that love is the foundation of our own humanity. It teaches empathy, compassion, and the capacity to forgive. By recognizing the divine in life, we are compelled to see the divine in the people around us, even in those who challenge us or provoke discomfort. Expression of love encourages patience and understanding, fostering relationships that reflect the same care, respect, and attention we offer in our words of devotion. In this sense, speaking words of love is not a passive act, it is an active shaping of character, guiding us to act with integrity, generosity, and moral clarity. Expressing love deepens our resilience. Life is inevitably filled with moments of disappointment, injustice, and suffering. Yet love provides an anchor that prevents despair from overwhelming the spirit. When we communicate love to God, we affirm the presence of goodness and purpose even in adversity. Love becomes a stabilizing force, a reminder that we are part of a larger narrative in which our struggles are neither meaningless nor solitary. The act of loving, even in uncertainty, strengthens our capacity to endure challenges with courage and to respond to difficulties with grace rather than resentment. It is through love that we find meaning, hope, and the courage to persevere. The expression of love nurtures gratitude and awareness. Love and gratitude are inseparable. To truly love is to notice, to acknowledge, and to honor. Words of love directed toward God are inseparable from recognition of the countless ways life is sustained, nurtured, and enriched. In practicing this expression, we cultivate mindfulness, noticing the beauty and harmony present even in ordinary moments. Love sharpens perception, illuminates the path of ethical living, and opens the heart to the richness of human experience. It allows us to see both the grandeur and subtlety of existence, fostering a sense of wonder that transforms daily life into a sacred opportunity for connection. Expressing love is an invitation to transformation. Love shapes character, cultivates empathy, and aligns the soul with higher ideals. It transforms our relationship with God from one of mere observation or expectation into active engagement, where our hearts, minds, and actions are fully involved in the pursuit of goodness and meaning. By choosing to articulate love, we participate in a dynamic process of growth, becoming not only recipients of divine grace but co-creators of a life imbued with purpose, compassion, and insight. In this act, we discover that love is not only what we give, it is the force that molds us, teaches us, and ultimately reveals the deepest truths about ourselves and our connection to the world. A plea for strength is one of the most honest and necessary expressions a human being can offer. To speak to God asking for strength is not a confession of weakness in a negative sense, but an acknowledgement of the reality that life presents challenges beyond our own capacity to manage alone. Strength is not merely physical resilience. It is the fortitude of the mind, the endurance of the spirit, and the courage of the heart to face difficulties without surrendering to despair. In asking for strength, we admit that we are vulnerable, yet we simultaneously affirm a commitment to rise above our limitations, to persevere despite obstacles, and to remain steadfast in the pursuit of purpose, meaning, and moral integrity. Requesting strength begins with awareness. To recognize that we need strength is to confront the difficulties we face without denial or pretense. Life is replete with trials that test our patience, endurance, and character. Moments when the path seems unclear, burdens feel unbearable, and hope seems distant. To acknowledge this need is not shameful, it is realistic. It is an act of courage because it requires honesty with oneself, the humility to admit that we cannot do everything alone, and the willingness to reach out to a source of power greater than our own. By verbalizing this plea, we create a conscious link between our vulnerability and the divine support available to sustain us. Strength in this context is deeply multidimensional. It encompasses emotional resilience, the capacity to endure grief, loss, or disappointment without becoming bitter. It encompasses moral courage, the ability to act rightly even when fear, temptation, or social pressure would urge compromise. And it encompasses spiritual perseverance, the willingness to continue in faith and purpose, even when circumstances seem bleak or guidance unclear. Asking God for strength is to recognize that true endurance requires more than human willpower. It requires alignment with principles, values, and a sense of purpose that transcends immediate circumstances. It is an acknowledgement that life's challenges are not simply obstacles, but opportunities for growth, refinement, and the development of character. Pleading for strength also fosters humility. In acknowledging our limitations, we resist the illusion that we are self-sufficient, independent of others or masters of all that occurs. This humility is empowering, for it opens the door to learning, growth, and guidance. When we ask for strength, we implicitly trust that we are part of a larger pattern, a greater design in which our efforts, choices, and endurance contribute to outcomes that extend beyond the scope of our immediate perception. The words of this plea are thus not cries of desperation alone. They are declarations of faith, affirming that we are willing to participate in life with courage, discipline, and attentiveness to the principles that govern moral and spiritual order. A plea for strength cultivates resilience in action. Strength is not passive. It manifests through behavior, decision-making, and consistent effort despite adversity. Asking God for strength is to invite the fortitude necessary to persevere in the face of fear, to maintain integrity when convenience tempts compromise, and to continue striving toward long-term goals when immediate results are uncertain. This form of strength integrates mind, heart, and spirit, producing an inner cohesion that allows individuals to navigate trials with clarity and purpose. It transforms obstacles from insurmountable barriers into challenges that refine judgment, build character, and deepen commitment to principles and values. Requesting strength is also a catalyst for courage. Life often confronts us with situations that demand risk, sacrifice, or confrontation of the unknown. To ask for strength is to recognize these demands and to prepare oneself to meet them with resolve. Courage without strength is fragile, and strength without courage remains dormant together. They allow us to act decisively, to endure patiently, and to respond ethically even when circumstances are complex or threatening. The plea for strength is therefore not only a request for endurance, it is a commitment to engage life fully, to participate actively in shaping outcomes, and to confront uncertainty with deliberate intention rather than avoidance. Seeking strength deepens our relationship with the divine. It transforms prayer from routine words into a dialogue of intention, a connection in which our needs, vulnerabilities, and aspirations are shared openly and without pretense. Strength, when sought in this manner, is not merely a personal resource. It is an extension of a partnership between the human and the divine, a channel through which resilience, clarity, and courage flow into our lives. By articulating this plea, we remind ourselves that strength is not isolation but connection, not mere willpower but alignment with a higher order, and not temporary endurance but enduring transformation. In this act, vulnerability becomes power, dependence becomes courage, and the simple act of asking evolves into a lifelong practice of growth, resilience, and purposeful living.